Listen, I know that we're not supposed to swear in church, but holy Sorry, my name is Patrick, and I'm here to encourage, equip, and empower everyday worship leaders like you and me. And we have to talk about the new remote feature in Playback.
Well, obviously,
Clicks, cues, Ableton, Prime, Playback, these have all been debated in the worship space for far too long. And I love the place we're at because technology is advancing so quickly and we, the users, get to benefit. I myself have gone on a journey to find the easiest way for my worship team to implement multi-track rigs that work well into our system, but don't break the bank or have this huge learning curve. And I landed on Playback from multitracks.com as the best option for my team. But this is not the video where we debate that choice, my friends. That argument can happen in the comment section of the video where I talk about my decision to stop using Ableton Live and fully commit to Playback. Put the torches and pitchforks away, go over to that video, bring your torches, bring your pitchforks. It's gonna be a fun conversation. Listen, different things work for different people, and if you're on the fence about using Playback for multitracks.com, well, this feature might convince you. What was already a great app, Playback, has now been made better with this new remote feature. And if you didn't know, Playback is an app that can run on any of your Apple devices, like your Mac, your iPhone, and or your iPad. It's made by multitracks.com, a company that exists to supply worship teams with resources like clicks, guides, and backing tracks to fill out your worship team's sound, just to name a few. So normally I run Playback on my Mac. My Mac sits on stage right beside me during the worship set so I can start songs, cue different sections in songs, kill everything in an emergency, just turn everything off, or even start a click track during a moment of spontaneous worship where our team moves off the book or kind of outside of the set list, but we still want to remain in sync, which musically is always a good idea.
The ice around my neck.
I've often wished that there were an easy way for me to have another team member run our Playback rig, but that would require me moving our entire rig to wherever they were or having really long cables running across the stage. Now, your Playback rig can be very, very extensive, very large, or it can be really minimal, and ours is somewhere in between. But I'm not going to get into all the gear that we use today, which is why you should watch this video, because I think we put together a really cost-effective, very professional system that's actually never failed me. And apparently, I'm not the only one that wants to be able to have other team members use the Playback rig because Playback has been given, like I said, a new remote feature. And let me show you why this rules and how it has made Playback so much easier for me and made it easier for me to train my other worship leaders to use it as well. Beginning this past Sunday, which was Christmas Sunday, and I would highly suggest never testing something new at Christmas, but I went for it.
I'm a loner, Daddy. A rebel.
Beginning this past Sunday, I now have a Playback setup that lives right beside our audio rack backstage. It never moves, it never leaves, and anyone has access to it. When I'm prepping a worship set from home or from my office or even right inside our auditorium, I can open up any of my devices, Mac, iPad, iPhone, like I said, and I can decide what songs I want to sing or lead. Now, Playback allows me to just add a song that has a simple count in and a click track or a click track with just guides, or I can rent every stem of a song from multitracks.com right inside of the Playback app with a subscription. Now, I have the click track, I have a guide telling me what sections of the song is coming up, and even have individual instrument tracks I can turn up or down. I can turn up extra guitar parts, fun little loops and percussion parts, or any other instrument that is featured on the song. Now, our team doesn't use tracks that often. We normally just use the clicks and the guides to keep us aligned, but we're not against it by any means. That being said, you are never going to see me playing with a virtual band on stage. Tracks are meant to support the band, not fully replace the band, with somewhat of an asterisk here. Let's say my bass player gets sick. Well, we lay on hands, we pray for healing, and then we just turn up the bass right inside of Playback. That track solves our problem. It's not something I would plan on, but in an emergency, problem solved, works great.
Wow.
Once my setlist has been created, I save it to the cloud. When I get to church, I open up the Playback app on my multi-tracks rig iPad. Yes, I'm using an iPad, and it's never failed me for my entire multi-tracks rig, and I load the set list that I just created at home. I click the menu button in the upper right-hand corner, which allows me to access the remote settings. Then I tell this iPad, or whatever device you're using, to be the host. Now I use those same steps to tell any other device running playback on the same network to be a remote. Now, let me back up for just a second. Now, one quick caveat here. If you make a change on your host device, all of your remote devices will need some time to catch up and connect again to the host. Just quick caveat. So what does this mean for us? What are some of the benefits? Well, this means now that the drummer can use his phone to set a tempo and start a click track on the host iPad. The lead guitar player, who happens to be, let's say that week, the music director, can cue a different section of the song that our worship leader wants to jump to without ever having to go over to the host device. They can just do it right from their iPad or their Mac or their iPhone. This means that the keys player can turn up the keys track if he has a bathroom emergency. It's happened to all of us. Now, I am not here to throw stones. I think that if something works for your team, I celebrate that. But I want to point out that Ableton cannot do this, which is why playback is so great. It's not made just as a DAW. Ableton is amazing, but playback is made specifically for worship teams and worship leaders. But if you want to dig into the Ableton playback thing a little bit more, you got to watch this video.